Predator is the latest film to enter the Predator franchise. This one is directed and written by Shane Black. It's also written by a man named Fred Dekker. He and Shane have worked together before in a film called Monster Squad and Edge, which came to TV. And in this film, two predators are having a skirmish with each other. They end up on Earth and they get on the radar of Sterling K. Brown's character, Will Traeger. He leads up this operation called Project Stargazer. He wants to bring them in to study their tech and study them. And then you also have a sniper named Quinn McKenna, played by Boyd Holbrook, who first interacts with them. And after that first encounter with the Predator, who kills his entire military unit, he teams up with a bus filled with veterans who have their own little mental problems, and also a geneticist played by Olivia Munn to track down the Predators and take them out. I was optimistic for this film. The trailers at first were a little generic. The latest one they released was like, alright, that looks a little fun. That looks like it has a lot of Shane Black flavor to it. And I really like the cast in this film. It looked very promising, and I'm a big fan of Shane Black's other directing and writing works like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys most recently. And even as far as big blockbusters go, Iron Man 3 I think is really underappreciated as far as the Marvel films go. That one's like really good. So I went in with a lot of hope, hoping that this could actually be the best Predator sequel that we've gotten. I think it's fair to say that no Predator film will ever top the original one with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Like, that's not possible. I think that's one of the best action movies ever made. Predator 2 is just very mediocre to me, and Predators also is mediocre, but that's like slightly better than 2. I was at least hoping for this film to be better than those though, because you have a lot of talent behind the camera and on screen, so I was really hoping for this film, and it really let me down overall. This is actually my least favorite Predator film, not counting the Alien vs. Predator movies. This one just... it's really weird. You'd think, considering how talented and experienced Shane Black is at this point, that this movie wouldn't make some of the amateur mistakes that it does, but it happens. It felt like 20th Century Fox just found a guy off the street, like a writer for hire, like, you know what the Predator is? Can you make another one for us? And he was like, sure, I guess. It'll make me some money. Alright, sure. And then they were like, this is a really good script. It'll work. Can you direct it now? And he was like, sure, I guess. I'm sure I know how to direct this. It feels like that happened, but it didn't. It's Shane Black who's directed and written multiple stuff before. So how this feels like a first-timer handled this, I don't really know. There's a big controversy surrounding this film because they had to edit out a scene with a sex offender. I don't want to dig too much into that, but if you're hoping that you can forget about that, you won't. Olivia Munn's introduction feels really awkward now because you can tell there was supposed to be a scene right before that that's just completely missing. So not only is her introduction completely botched at this point, but also there's other scenes like that too with really choppy editing. Like, there's literally moments in the film where we'll cut back to certain characters and they'll have certain things and you'll be thinking like, wait, where did they get this from? That feels like, where did you get that from? You know what I mean? Like, stuff happens off screen that you wish you could see, but because it's not on screen, it just feels like a weird jump. Like, nothing really flows nicely. There's even some moments other than that later on in the film where some of the editing is just really weird. Like, some of the humor is really botched also because of the weird editing this film has. And the humor, for the most part, I actually kind of did like. Like, there's a lot of jokes that I really was enjoying, but there's so many moments in this film where the humor was made really awkward and really cringy, either because of the actors or because of the editing not really knowing how to handle these jokes. And Shane Black is a really funny guy. Like, The Nice Guys is one of the funniest films out there, and so is Kiss Kiss Bang Bang. They're really good, but for some reason, he just didn't know how to handle it in this film. I don't know what happened to him. Like, it feels like the C-list version of Shane Black, but it's actually Shane Black. My best theory that I can come up with here is that 20th Century Fox just wanted a recognizable name, someone to get people excited about when they announced that this guy is going to direct The Predator, and they were thinking, hey, that comedic relief guy, Hawkins, from the first Predator, that's Shane Black, he's directed some stuff, let's get him to do it. And he was like, well, Kiss Kiss Bang Bang and The Nice Guys, they didn't do that well financially, but Iron Man 3 is pretty good, so maybe I should make another blockbuster film. And so he just kind of half-assed this one just so maybe he could strike a deal with 20th Century Fox to distribute like an original work of his. That's kind of how it feels like to me. It didn't feel like his effort was really put in there all that much, and he also wrote this with another guy, Fred Dekker, who I haven't seen all of his films, but the one film that he wrote that I did see is RoboCop 3, and that's a piece of crap. And it could be so easy for me to just say it's all his fault, it's Fred Dekker's fault, it's not Shane Black. There's a lot of great Shane Black moments, But at the end of the day, these two have worked together before, as I mentioned beforehand. A TV movie called Edge and then Monster Squad. They both wrote that film. So I can't really put the blame on just Fred Dekker. It's really a lot of Shane Black's fault too. I'm sure there's a lot of studio meddling too. There's a terrible sequel bait ending at the end that doesn't even feel like it was written by Shane Black. But I think for the most part, this isn't one of those instances where I can say I gotta commend the director for doing the best with what he had, because it doesn't feel like he really cared all that much. Surprisingly so, because you hear him talk about it and it's like, it seems like you care, but I'm watching the movie now and it feels so rushed. That's another big issue I have with this film, is that the plot is just too quick. It doesn't get you time to feel really invested with any of these characters. It's just going by so quickly. There's certain pieces of information that just happen and they move on from it quickly. There's certain character motivations that feel so rushed and it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. And speaking of the characters, let's get to them real quick. How are the actors? They're all fine. They're all fine in this film. They're all doing their best, but at the end of the day, none of them really have a strong enough character to really elevate themselves. Like, for example, unfortunately, Boyd Holbrook, who I was a big fan of in Logan, like, I was looking at him in Logan, I was like, that's a guy who's gonna go places. He's gonna have a lot of great opportunities in the future. He showed a lot of promise in Logan, and here he is the leading man. And I could honestly care less about him. Like, he was fine, he has a family, but they rush over a lot of info about that. Like, I didn't find out until after the movie when I was looking up on Wikipedia that he and his wife in that film were divorced. Like, I didn't even know. I was like, oh, that's what's going on there? They mentioned something really briefly, but they never really, like, flat out said it or anything like that. Like, that's how rushed his home life is. He's a military soldier who has a home life. That aspect is rushed, and the beginning part, you don't even know what his life is like as a soldier. There's like one line that kind of hints like how he feels about being a soldier, but once again, very rushed. You're not really feeling anything for him, and as much as I like the actor, I just wish there was more for him to do. His wife, I don't even know why they gave her screen time. I don't know why they casted someone to be her, because she has nothing, like 1 minute of screen time. Literally, her entire presence is just so they can have a mom for Jacob Tremblay, and so she can offer an exposition dump on what Quinn McKenna has done before. But why would you want an exposition dump? That's like the lamest way to write characters. And unfortunately, there's a lot of exposition dump for these characters, like the bus sequence when they all meet. Trevante Rhodes is kind of like, oh yeah, this is who I am, I'm gonna lay out all the information for you to understand who I am, and that's Keegan-Michael Key, I'm gonna lay out every piece of information for you. He's gonna chime in a bit. Funny guy, but let's offer some more exposition. Look over there, it's Alfie Allen. Like, that is the character introductions for this film. Just the laziest exposition possible. Just lay out everything, this is why you should care, and now we're not going to do anything much else with that. We're just going to move on. We hope you care about them now. But that's not how you handle characters. I'll give him this though, Keegan-Michael Key and Thomas Jane actually had some pretty good comedic chemistry with each other. Like, these two, as much as the characters weren't as well developed as they should have been, they're actually really funny together. Like, a lot of my laughs actually did kind of come from them working together. Like, they surprisingly worked very well with each other. And also Sterling K. Brown as Will Traeger, this head of this CIA project, Stargazer, he was also really good, because once again, it's like Sterling K. Brown knew, like, there's not really much with this character, very generic, like, I'm just the head of this organization and I'm a little sinister, sort of, but he just chews the scenery every time he's there. Like, he's really entertaining here. There's certain lines that he said that honestly had me kind of cracking up. He's really having a fun time with this film, and you could tell that. So those three actors were actually kind of making the most with what they had, actually doing something with their performance to elevate themselves, and that's better than at least everyone else who's just doing what's required of them, which is a little disappointing. There's another guy, Augusto Aguilera, who is weird, I guess. Like, I think he had a brain injury or something, and he kind of makes some passes at Olivia Munn's character, and also Boyd Holbrook's ex-wife at some point, and that's kind of it for his character. Not much to it. Alfie Allen, I don't even know why he's in this film, because I literally don't remember what his story was. I don't remember what he did in the film either. And that kind of sucks that you have this actor who's from John Wick, killed John Wick's dog, and also from Game of Thrones, and he has nothing really to do in this film. It felt like, well, we need another person. I feel maybe we need one more person. Let's, this guy, sure, whatever. A lot of people were walking out of this film talking about how good Trevante Rhodes was, and yeah, he's a really good actor. I really liked him in Moonlight, but it's just not living up to how good this character should have been. Him and Boyd Holbrook are supposed to be like the two buddies of the team. Like, he's making friends with everyone on the bus, but these two are like the best friends, like best friends forever now. But you don't really feel that when things start to happen later in the film. You don't really feel any emotional connection to him other than he's a good actor and I've liked him in Moonlight before. And that's kind of it. Like, I wish there was more for this actor to do. There's so many ways that this movie could have just focused up and let the characters just be fleshed out a bit more, but for some reason this movie is so determined to go by as quickly as possible that you don't get that time at all. But the movie expects you to care about the characters too, so they did not handle that the best way. Olivia Munn is just a geneticist. As I mentioned earlier, her introduction scene is now really awkward and funny now as far as like editing goes, and there's really nothing that much to her character besides that. Like, she's a geneticist who then does some action stuff, and that's it. She doesn't learn anything, she doesn't really develop, other than I didn't know predators existed before, but now I do. And now I know who Boyd Holbrook is. And Jacob Tremblay, he's a really good kid actor, all things considered. Like, Before I Wake and also Room, and I heard he was really good in that film Wonder. It's so disappointing to see him in this film. He is just the generic kid in this one. But it's not just that. It's not just that he's a generic kid. He also has a condition that I can kind of relate to. And the way they go about showing his condition and the stuff they say about his condition to try to fit it with the rest of the sci-fi stuff going on, I was just kind of snickering to myself like, okay, you're actually gonna do that? Like, you're brave enough to do that? Okay. Wow. Alright. Wow. Like, honestly, you really do have to see it to believe it. It's so lame. It's some of the laziest screenwriting. Like, this movie is so lazy. I'm really surprised that Shane Black actually wrote this thing. And as I mentioned before, this movie feels so rushed, but also the script is just really generic overall. But I was watching the movie and I was thinking, like, I can see this story really working, or I can see the characters really elevating this piece, but they're not doing that at all. It's just, we found the predator, we're studying it, oops, it broke out, and now action stuff is going on, and that's it. Like, can you at least either do something else with the story, or can you have the characters really elevate this thing? Can you take your time to actually focus up and have people really care, instead of just breezing by everything so people feel like they're having a fun time just because it's going by quickly? But speaking of fun, how's the action in this film? I'm sure everyone wants to know. There are cool predator kills in this film, but then again, whenever the predator kills anything, it's pretty cool, to say the least. If I wanted to watch the predator kill stuff, though, I'd wait for this film to be released on DVD so people can take the clips and put it on YouTube in a montage, like best predator kills. You don't really need to see the movie to see the predator kill stuff. The action scenes overall are just very lame. Like, it's a bunch of people shooting and then the predator will do something cool. It doesn't really do that much to stand out. There's no particular sequence that I really remember all that much. It's really a lot of missed opportunities, to be honest. Like, there's one moment where the characters are at the school and they get kind of separated. And I was thinking, like, okay, here's what's going to happen. One group is going to be attacked by the predator that we've seen, but the other group is going to be attacked by that ultimate predator that we've seen in the trailers and stuff. But that doesn't happen. Like, it's just the one group that runs off into the school, they get attacked by the predator, and then it's just that moment in the trailer where the ultimate one grabs it and flings it onto the car, and the other group was just not doing anything. Like, they were just kind of standing outside the whole time? Like, you're not doing anything with this big cast of people? Are you for real? Not that it really matters, because you don't feel any suspense. Like, there's no tension in this entire film. There's one scene in particular where some people were saying, like, it's the only moment of tension involving Olivia Munn and being decontaminated before she can leave a room where the predator is killing people. That's not really as suspenseful as some people have made it out to be. Like, it's really not. Like, it goes by so quickly. As I mentioned before, you don't feel any stakes at all. They don't really do that much with it. And you don't really care about Olivia Munn as a character either, other than she's a hot woman, and she's stirred up a lot of controversy in the news regarding this film. Like, that's the only reason why you'd really care about her. That, like, no character stuff to be found here for her. The practical makeup for the Predator, whenever that's there, that looks really good. Some of the CGI for the Predator tech and the Ultimate Predator, that looked kind of good. Some of it looks pretty fake, though, which is surprising because this movie cost a lot of money, like $88 million, and also the Predator dogs look awful. Not only do they just CG-wise look awful, but when they get introduced in the action scene, I was really dumbfounded because they pull up and they're shooting at the dogs and they're just kind of standing there and growling, but they're not doing anything. Like that moment in the latest trailer where the Predator dog like jumps up at someone and like tries to attack them through bleachers, that's about all that the Predator dogs really do. To be honest, like, they just kind of stand there and do nothing, and then there's one story they do with one of the Predator dogs that's just really dumb, and it's stupid. It's a stupid movie. But then again, I've talked before on this channel about how stupid movies, I can enjoy them. Like, I can enjoy when a movie gets stupid as long as it's actually entertaining, as long as there's a lot of good stuff going on behind the camera also, and as long as I care about the characters at least. And I didn't care about any of these characters. As much as Keegan-Michael Key and Thomas Jane and Sterling K. Brown really elevated some of it, like I was really entertained by some of their comedy, overall that doesn't make for a good character though. And also they're not the lead characters, so that's not where the focus should be. There's a lot of lazy screenwriting, there's a lot of rushed moments, there's a lot of poor editing and directing choices. This movie doesn't even feel like a Shane Black movie, but it's there, directed by Shane Black, right there on the screen, and it's like, I don't understand how you went from making one of the best buddy cop movies ever, The Nice Guys, and then you did this, which is the worst Predator film that we've gotten, and also my least favorite film, directing-wise, from you. I'm gonna give The Predator a C-. Aside from the cast doing a fine job with what they have, and those 3 actors that I mentioned really elevating it, some cool Predator kill moments, and also the score by Henry Jackman, even though it's a lot of reusing Alan Silvestri stuff from the original, like, it's still a fine score to listen to. Like, other than that, there's really not that much to really care about with this film. There's a lot of amateur decision making that really could have been fixed quite easily, especially if you've directed films before like Shane Black, especially like a big one, which Shane Black has done with Iron Man 3. You'd think he'd know, like, this is what I can do to fix it, but he doesn't fix anything. It was like he had a rough draft from someone else, and he was like, hey Fred, let's make it funny now, I guess. Let's do that. Like, that's... it's aggravating to think, like, this is a Shane Black movie. This is what Shane Black wanted to do with The Predator. Like, I was thinking beforehand, like, you're gonna, like, balance comedy and horror and action really well, like, that's what you're gonna do. It's gonna be, like, somewhat satirical of these Predator films, but you're gonna take it seriously, you're gonna have great action. No, it's not really satirical. Like, there's a couple jokes about how it's called The Predator, but it's not really a predator, more like a sports hunter. That's the only, like, moment of satire in this film. Literally, the ending that teases sequel, you'd think they'd make fun of that, but it's not satirical in the slightest. It's just, yeah, we're actually serious. This is what we want the sequel to be. And it's the funniest thing ever. It's the lamest, funniest thing I've seen. Me and my sister were cracking up the entire time. Like, we know you did not just do that, Shane Black. We know you did not just try to make a franchise out of this lame movie. But that's what they're trying to do. I can't really spoil it. You just kind of have to see what they do. It's quite something, to say the least. The fact that they had faith in this overall mediocre film. Wow, I wish that the characters saved this. I wish that Shane Black could have saved this. I wish the action could have saved this. Anything. But it just didn't in the end. It's really disappointing. It's one of the biggest disappointments of the year. I can't say that I hate this film overall, but there's a lot of missed opportunities, a lot of mistakes that Shane Black could have easily fixed. He just didn't care enough to do it, surprisingly. But if you've seen The Predator, leave in the comments below what you thought of it, and as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.